All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today we have Anuj Gupta sir with us. I'll give a quick introduction about Anuj sir. So, how we got introduced is I got to read his book for which he's one of the co-authors, which is the Practical Natural Language Processing. It was published by O'Reilly, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. This book had come in 2020, which is much before LLMs. So I got to know much deeper about how NLP domain works, and that's how I got connected to him. Quick introduction about Anuj sir. Anuj sir brings about 20 years of experience in core AI. He has authored 20 plus research papers, US patents, and the book that I was talking about that has been endorsed by top AI folks from CMU, UCSD, DeepMind, etc. What I love most about him is his first principle thinking on AI and AI products. And currently, he is helping organizations become AI native. He works as the head of AI with a select few companies. So, welcome, Anuj sir, and thank you for joining.
Thanks a lot, Chirag. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And I would sincerely request you to uh, say Anuj rather than sir. I don't deserve that title.
Being very modest. Uh, all right. So, we'll jump into the discussion today based on the latest blogs that you had written. I think it was the right time to discuss about going back to data in the AI world and then understanding what impact it can do for the future of AI. And I'll share the links of all of the latest blogs that you have as well when we post this podcast. Starting with one of the very important questions. In one of your blogs, you had mentioned that anyone can build software now, but if the real power is data and only the giants have the scale to collect it, doesn't AI actually make the big players more untouchable and not less?
In a way, yes. So, one, like, let's understand what is software, right? So, if software is just the code, then yes, anybody can write it today, right?
Yeah.
But that would be a very understatement of the whole picture. Software is not just the code, right? It's the integrations, it's the overall environment in which the whole piece works, right? So imagine you're building a payment software, then having that linking where the entire payment goes through via the gateways, the banking system, everything
Yeah.
comes back. That is very much a part of it, right? Being able to serve many customers simultaneously, being able to collect all the data, being able to, and as you drive more adoption, you also discover more bugs, create more features. So it's the ecosystem then that starts to build back into the software, right?
Yeah.
Now, just because you have written a code is not that you have built the software. Far from it, right? So it's only a part of it. But yes, for your own small applications, fun applications that you want to create and stuff like that. Yes, today anybody can write code, write the code using cloud and all those softwares, right?
Yeah.
But it's not that you can start to suddenly challenge the big guns like the Microsoft, the Tallies, right? Their moat doesn't just come from that code, right? It also comes from the fact that they're there to dedicatedly serve it. When something
Yeah.
goes down, they're there to fix it, right? Can a person who has just sat and done vibe coding, you expect him to run an enterprise grade software? No, far from it, right?
Absolutely.
So that's one big distinction, I would say, right? Second, I would say, yes, data was always important in AI. We all have known it. Unfortunately, a lot of people think so. If we think back, right, what have LLMs changed? I would say a couple of things, right? One, earlier we used to build models which were problem specific,
Correct.
right? So if I have to identify a human versus if I have to kind of differentiate between a cat and a dog, though both are computer vision problems and fairly similar to each other, one might have to build two separate models and two separate systems for them. LLM started to build this whole idea of general intelligence where they can try and solve multiple tasks at the same time,
Correct.
right? So
Yeah.
that's one part, right? Two is you don't need to, if one wants to start AI today, you don't have to train your model first and then start the whole thing. It was earlier on
Exactly.
the case, right?
Pre-trained models.
Right.
Yes.
So you have what I call as intelligence off the shelf. It's almost like having a pen drive which has the intelligence. You just plug and play the pen drive and your
Mm.
machine has the intelligence, right?
Yeah.
That's the second part, right? And the biggest hindrance to building own models used to be data. So every company has data today. You take any company, right? They have been building softwares and stuff like that. They'll have customers' data, all of that.
Yeah.
What they always have, and that's even to today, are data, not data sets, right? To
Mm.
train models, what you need is somebody to open
That,
up all that data, clean it, sort it, segregate it, right? Get it all labeled, annotated, right? So that creates
that,
data set. Now,
yeah, it's
that
a great distinction that you make. Data, not data sets. I
yes,
mean, a lot of people will relate to it.
yes. And if you go and talk to any CXO, right? Convincing them to be able to spending a lot of time, and this is the most time consuming process, right? Because data is also sitting as a whole heap. Product would have gone multiple changes. So
Yeah.
maybe the first version used to use date of birth as MMDD. Later version started to have year in some other format. Some other later version started. So while the date was being collected, the date would sit in multiple formats and stuff like that, right? It's almost like
Yes.
digging layers of the earth, right? And every new layer talks about some major change in the product. You can literally track it that way, right? So
Yeah.
creating the data from datasets is a very time consuming process. And that is true even today. Now, going and convincing CXOs to invest time over there used to be the hardest piece,
Okay.
which is where a lot of companies could not get into AI because they never had the data sets. And somehow a lot of these CXOs were not unique. But today, that again has been taken away. Even if you have no data, you can start with the off the shelf LLM and you can
Correct.
start baking AI into your products. So these three things have changed fundamentally, right?
Yes.
Having said that, does that mean data is no more important? No, absolutely not, because what has changed in the AI world is building of the V0,
Hmm.
right? And the real journey of an AI product starts from there onwards. Once you have
Absolutely. Yes.
the V0, you go to the
Hmm.
market, you start selling, and then you figure out whether you have a product market fit, not a product market fit, what all changes you might have to make in your features, product, offering, pricing, and all of that stuff, right? The real journey actually starts from V0. Now,
Correct.
imagine you are a company, you build something, you go to the market, you even get traction. Great. Now what do? No AI system is 100% correct. So even your
Hmm.
V0 won't be 100% correct. For sure.
Exactly.
Right? Now what
Yes.
do? But the customer is paying 100% of the payment. Customer is not making a 90% payment for 90%, right? You are not.
Correct.
So the customer will say, hey, give me better accuracy. So you'll have
Yeah.
to push your models. So what will you do? You might do some RLL, RL, fine tuning, reinforcement learning, human in the feedback, and all of that stuff. You might get to a V1. You might push the boundary further. You might get to a V2. Great. What if
Hmm.
you have to push further? That is where your data will then start to come back in a huge way. Because
Okay.
the ultimate solution might be that if you're building a say a financial product that might want to suggest what uh, or what share should you buy in the equity market, right?
Hmm.
That model need not know, hey, whether America's flag is this red, white strap with stars versus
Hmm.
some other flag. But it should be very
Yeah.
good at predicting what or suggesting what script you should buy. So this is where
Mm.
the whole idea of dedicated models, mod
Customizations. Yeah.
specific for the task at hand, will start to come back. And that
Yes.
again requires data. Now, data
Mm.
cannot be created overnight, right? So,
Yeah.
one is having the crude. The second part of that is having a refinery where the entire crude gets cleaned up, distilled
Mm.
into various parts that can be used. So, the companies that understand this game
Mm.
are the ones that's going to make the most of it, right? But
Okay.
point is, from V0 now that has gone to V2.
Okay.
And a lot of startups that are coming up today and stuff like are not finding product market fits and stuff like that, where they might not even survive until the V2, which is fine.
Yes.
But what about the later one? The point to be realized is if and when you get into that phase, and which is a great problem to have, right? What will you do? You
Yeah.
can't say that that is when you will start collecting data.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree with it.
That has
Yes.
to start from day one,
Yes.
and which is where Chirag you see companies where the leadership team, especially the founding team or founders,
Mm.
has one or two people who have done extensive AI
Mm.
would be very different from founders who believe it's just a game of plug and play LLMs,
Absolutely.
right? So it's in the long term that the distinction will come out.
Got it. Got it. No, I think great insights, and I could definitely relate to a lot of these. For sure, for the V0, because what I feel is now that all of these tools are available, everyone is building V0s.
Yes.
But taking from V0 to V2 is definitely, it requires a lot of data and all of those things that you were mentioning. So, great insights on that side. I'll move on to the next question. Again, based on the latest blog that I had written, that you had written, and I just went through. Uh, as AI floods the world with fake machine generated content, right? Does real human behavior become the last thing that is truly scarce, or probably which is the new oil that everyone will fight for? What are your thoughts?
That's interesting. So one of the ways I look at it and I teach CXOs is uh, look at shoe manufacturing, for example, right? So
Mm.
shoes are built in factories, they're all alike, right? Which is what makes them cheap, easily available. But then there are the handcrafted shoes.
Mm.
So the machine generated content is like the factory made, standardized, same, similar, available, right?
Correct. Yeah.
But if you want to really look at a very unique point of view, right? This is where you'll have to look at the handcrafted equivalent, right?
Mm.
So people who will have that thinking, who can, so everybody today can use a GPT and write an article why AI is great, why LLMs are great, and stuff like that, right? But if you look at a contrarian point of view, right, which is more rooted in the realities of how AI is working and all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
That is what will stand out, or the first principles thinking or experience. And this could be an article in press. I mean, together
Mm.
a lot of journalists might be using GPT to kind of refine or even write the core thesis, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that has multiple implications for multiple parties, I believe. One, like you said, it's going to flood the world with a lot of machine generated content, which will have no value, zero value,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Two, while today it is helping the world and world genuinely believes I can also write stuff. I mean, I can talk about music despite the fact that I have zero understanding, zero. I haven't even played or sang or anything for more than 5 minutes also. But I can also sound like a top-notch music specialist, right? But if you start outsourcing your thinking itself to these machines,
Mm. Yes.
I genuinely believe over a period of time you'll be left with nothing. Absolutely. Because then you don't know. I mean, human body has this amazing thing, right? If a muscle is not being used over a period of time, that muscle will become very weak. And I think
Yeah.
it's more than true for brains. So if for everything today you are using AI, and there's a very interesting paper also that came out by Anthropic about coders, right?
Hmm.
If you look at most engineering teams today are trying to optimize for what I will call a sprint metrics. How fast
Okay.
was done, how many bugs were fixed, and stuff like that, right? And all they are using is their engineers are using Claude and all the stuff to write very quickly and get going and all that. But if you give them, and there's an experiment that Anthropic did, it's a paper that came earlier Feb this year. I
Okay.
recently also gave a talk on that. Uh, so what they did is they took a bunch of these engineers, gave them a completely new Python library on which they had no understanding, and they were
Okay.
asked to write code and build applications using that. And what they found is that while the newbies could write applications, no to question, but their understanding of the uh, whole library itself was very abysmal. Now,
Yes.
tomorrow, when one, it's not that AI generated code is 100%, right? Second, uh, second is that uh, as these systems will make mistakes, your bugs will start to become more complex. You need to rely
Hmm.
on the human judgment to fix it. So you need more experienced engineers.
Okay.
Point is, where does the experience come from? The experience comes from having spent a lot of time banging your head while you were a rookie,
Yeah.
which you never did because you were using AI. So suddenly you're expected to ramp up like crazy. Where is that going to come from? Nowhere,
Correct.
right? So that's
Yeah.
one part of it. If you're using AI, you might look very good in writing articles and all that, but sooner or later, your own ability to do it will be called out very quickly, right?
Yes.
Two, we are already seeing where a bunch of these companies have now started to watermark to kind of
Hmm.
address this concern. Whether all of them will
Yes.
do, not do, that's a separate question, right? But Anthropic has already started to do that. Where
Yeah.
any and every content out of their system is now watermarked,
They'll watermark. Yeah.
right? The third, I believe, where it plays a very interesting thing is, and there are multiple dynamics to it, like I said, right? A lot of people believe that using LLM, one can even generate data, right?
Hmm.
What they don't understand is that what does generation of data mean? It means that you have truly, your model have truly understood the underlying distribution of the data in the first place. Only then can you generate.
Correct.
If you have understood the distribution so well, then all problems on top of it, like classification, regression, those are much simpler problems than data generation.
Correct.
Then you should be able to solve them with much higher accuracy, like 99% and above and stuff like that.
Proceed.
If, let us suppose, the model understood the
Yes.
underlying distribution, right?
Yeah.
Now, clearly that is not happening, which means these
Yes.
models haven't understood the underlying distribution that well.
Hmm.
Which means when you create synthetic data, it is not same. It might be
Hmm.
similar, but not
True.
same as the original data, right? One analogy is there in the cryptographic world, right? You might have heard
Hmm.
concepts like pseudo-random generators. So what are
Correct. Yeah.
pseudo-random generators? These are systems that can generate numbers that look like random but are actually not random. Okay.
Yes.
Now the nuance over there lies in that a limited machine, in this case a polytime, a machine that can only process polynomial strings, right? This is a term from complexity theory, right? Cannot distinguish between a original string and a pseudo random string.
Okay.
A totally random versus a pseudo random. So one with a limited brain capacity cannot distinguish.
Okay.
But a machine that can process or has exponential compute capability, which is called NP class,
Hmm.
right? It will be able to make a distinction. Now, where this becomes very interesting is that there are a bunch of papers that are already there over last 3-4 years itself, which show that if you try and train machine learning models over synthetic data, okay, they start to perform badly. Now,
Okay.
why I'm calling that out? See what has now been done. How were LLMs trained? The entire internet was taken.
Hmm.
Up, there was no AI generated content in it.
Correct.
A copy was created. The copy was then manually screened, cleaned, segregated. We all know Scale.ai and others did years and
Yeah.
years of work when whole of Africa sat and did data labeling and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
After that, LLMs were released, and now their generated content is continuously going on the internet. So now the
Hmm.
content of the internet is polluted. It is no more human generated. It has
True.
now machine generated content in it. And machine generated data is almost like poisoning the model, is what a lot of papers have
Hmm.
already established, as opposed to the
Yes.
real data. Now, what does that create? It creates a moat.
Hmm.
It's only a handful of companies that have this original copy of November 22 internet,
Hmm.
pre-GPT era, the last
Correct.
month, just before GPT got released with them. Others don't have. And nobody now will be able to do that. Now that creates a moat. If someone were to
Hmm.
create another OpenAI today or another Anthropic today, they would need all the data of the internet.
Yeah.
But you can't scrape the internet because machine generated data is already there. And segregating machine generated from human generated is not easy.
It's
That
a
is,
very deep concept.
yes, it's a very hard task. So
Yeah.
cleaning was much easy. So there are multiple facets to this, if I were to say, right? So
Yeah.
what most important is, yes, this content will go over and over. And I believe one of
Hmm.
the biggest consequences of that is social media will go down.
Okay.
Because why did social media in the first place came up? Because people wanted to connect to each other at a human level.
Correct.
Now it's
Yeah.
literally like I have created an agent of me that keeps posting content on my behalf, right? Everybody else will also. So it will basically
Yeah.
become a place where garbage is being dumped. Unless you
Agent to
write,
agent communications.
yes, yes, right? And you would have seen that a lot of social media content now, quality is going down,
It has degraded. Yeah.
which in turn
For
will
sure.
have repercussions on the engagement. That's one part.
Yeah.
Second is if you are using a lot of it, then your own capabilities. Somebody who used to be very, very creative in writing poems, would spend an hour or so, would now just get it from GPT, and anybody else can also get it from GPT. So where is the distinction?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
so rather than machine becoming more intelligent, it might happen that humans might become more dumb and they might become equivalent to machines.
Yeah. It's a very interesting way to put it. I think a lot of interesting points you said during this discussion. One of them was generation of the data itself. It's not easy. We understand that. And having worked into those problem statements where you don't have a data and you had to generate it, there are sophisticated methods like Monte Carlo simulation and others that we used to have, and then generate the data. And that also, if you feed to any ML model, you may not get the best output. And then the agent acting as behalf of the human, and then the other person's agent is also acting on behalf of them. So there are agents in the market who are engaging within themselves. So correct. I think the point that you made about social media, yes, definitely very deep point, and probably we should dive deeper into it someday. In the interest of time, let me move on to the next question, which has equal interesting insights that we can discuss about. Uh, Again, from the blog, you say the winner is whoever learns the fastest. But if everyone is getting the same superpower, doesn't the edge just cancel out and we are all racing towards the same crowded ideas?
Hmm. Yes and no. So on the surface looks yes, but let's look at internet. Okay.
Hmm.
When internet came in 98, it was a huge thing, 96, 98, right? But uh,
Yeah.
everybody had this the superpower, but did everybody win equally? No.
No.
It all came down to how you used it. Okay.
Yeah.
So somebody created this online bookshop called Amazon, right? Somebody created a Reddit. Somebody created a Gmail service, right?
PayPal. A lot
PayPal,
of products came out.
lot of right. While somebody might even, I mean, went and watched other things which are like not the best things, right? Got into wrong stuff. Okay,
Hmm.
got into this online gaming and stuff because of internet.
Yeah.
Everybody had the same superpower. So what happened? So how
Yeah.
you use it matters, right? I think, and more than at an individual level, one of the things I would definitely like to call out is how organizations use AI. If you look at lot of organizations, Chirag, what are they using? Okay, AI is there. Let's automate our customer support. HR gets lot of queries. Let us create a FAQ bot. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Exactly.
there is some finance, right? Why don't we create another small application and all that? This is great, right? Engineers are using cloud. We can code faster. This is all great. A lot of people believe we are doing AI and we are also writing the codes. And when I say people, especially CXO, right? See, because
Hmm.
if you look at how Bible starts, right? Bible said, God said, let there be light, and there was light, right?
Hmm.
In any organization, typically what happens is what the CXO says. They are the people
Hmm.
who have the power and authority. So they
Yeah.
say we will go down this path. That's what typically the organization goes down that path, right?
Hmm.
Now building using Claude for coding, building FAQ agents, or trying to automate your customer support, it's all great. But that's not going to give you an edge. If you're not even doing
Yeah.
that, you are not even gonna survive. So that's just survival 101.
Yeah.
Edge is not gonna come from there. The
Hmm.
edge is gonna come from those who look at the whole thing and rethink of the entire business from first principles.
Okay.
Three young, smart folks from a tier one institute were to create a YC company in the same business as yours
Hmm.
with all the power of AI as available in 2026 and in a coming year or two, what would that look like? That
Hmm.
is what's going to happen. And maybe we can
Yeah.
pick up an example here, right? If you look at Adobe, right? The greatest tool on designing, and then an extension of that was for marketing suite, right? Because that is where design gets used a lot on a daily basis,
Correct.
right? Uh, so, but what are the tricks that they miss when designing? If you even today look at Adobe, at least my personal experience, learning their design suite has never been easy. I have never been able
Hmm.
to kind of get to learn things in Adobe, even though I tried to spend a fair amount of time. But Figma is far more easier. And the most important
Hmm.
insight was design is a collaborative process. It's not it doesn't happen in isolation. So if you look at first major torpedo that hit Adobe was Figma.
Hmm. Yeah.
Internet Chirag. Hi Chirag. Uh, yeah, I think Chirag some little flakiness of the internet. Pardon me. Am I
Oh, no
audible?
worries. No worries. Yeah, you're audible now.
Okay. The second thing is, if you look at, you have heard of this company, Synthesia?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so this is a company that came out of Europe, I think 2019 or so, right? And again, the idea was to
Okay.
use AI in marketing, right? From
Okay.
first thinking. So you can create personas, you can record audios and all that using AI, right? Which is now become a
Okay.
very standard thing, right? But I would consider that as the second torpedo that went on to hit Adobe the most. Okay.
Okay.
And that hit directly two of their primary products, the design and the marketing suite, right?
Okay.
If you look at the AI world, the vector databases did not come from Oracle.
Hmm.
It came from Pinecone and others,
Yes.
right? Why? So the thing is, most large organizations, and this is a completely different problem, they tend to continue with their products, and what they're trying to do is trying to inject AI into their products. It's almost
Okay.
like an old weak guy, bring in an energy booster, put it in every part of my body, in my
Hmm.
lower arm, upper arm, lower leg, upper leg, and all of that, right? While
Hmm.
I might puff up, I might gain strength and all that, that's not how it is to be done, right? It's almost like
Yeah.
if that's not how the new three guys sitting in a corner trying to apply for a YC are gonna do. They're gonna look at the problem statement, the central problem you're solving, and say with this new
Yeah.
capability, how would one go about building it from scratch? Because they have that liberty.
Okay. Okay.
And that is the usage difference.
Makes sense.
This is again, right, requires a completely different podcast, right? Or maybe we should do one someday where I can give concrete examples and we can walk through this whole point, right? But
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, but like I said, the key becomes how you use it. You internet is there, you want to sit and play games, or you want to conceive an Amazon. Entirely up to you.
Hmm. Awesome. Great. Well, definitely a topic for next podcast. But I would like to leave with this one last question, sir, which is who should own the trail of the data that you leave behind just by being online or just by living online. So we are leaving a lot of data online, right? So is it the person you or who the person who is leaving the data or whichever company that happened to build those apps, who should own that data?
This is a tough question, and I might not be the best person to even answer that, right? But if one looks on the surface, and I recently was at a seminar where somebody gave a very interesting perspective to look at this, right? So one way to look at it is, hey, I came on an application, I did things, right? At the end
Hmm.
of the day, I own this data. It is my
Yeah.
data. It is my interaction. But another way to look at it is the data got created because you came on an application.
Correct.
That
Yes.
application was owned by the company.
Yes.
If that application or that company would not have been there, that data even would not have
Would
got
not be there.
created in the first
Yeah.
place, right?
Yes. Yes.
So can you still claim 100% ownership of it? I think this is a more philosophical, legal question where one
Hmm.
can argue it from both sides where you have standing, right? Uh,
Correct.
part of this also lies in the use of it. I think
Hmm.
more than who owns the data, the point is it's being used ethically or not. And that often becomes a gray zone, right? Right? Because
Yes.
this is no more just a corporate war. I mean, this is countries' ticket to becoming superpowers. That is what the potential has, right? But who owns it? One should also look at, hey, there is a surveillance camera that is there, right?
Hmm.
In an airport. You walk in,
Hmm.
right? Now you can't say that this camera cannot take my photograph,
Exactly.
right? And this again varies from country to country. So if you go to US, you you can't even take the photograph of an house without the permission of the owner and put it on the web. I hope you know this, right?
Yeah.
So this question then should also arise in photography, right? It is owned by the owner. So if you try and put it earlier on Flickr and other platforms, they had this built into it whether you have taken the permission from the owner or not. You have to explicitly say yes.
Okay.
On a person's face, right? But in a lot of countries, look at whole of Southeast Asia, I would say, right? You don't need, so the law varies,
Yeah, it varies. Yes.
right? So, and this is not just about AI, right? So, I mean, photography is a great example of this. So, in US, like I said, right, an individual's photo, I can't take. So, a lot of conferences would have where you might be given a red color uh, badge to wear, which tells you, please don't take my photo.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay. So again, different countries have different point of views, right? And it's a gray zone, right? And it
Yeah.
continue to remain that because, like I said, there's a lot of other interests which are also there, right? So you can say surveillance. Governments can use the data to mount surveillance on citizens, right? But at the end of the day, they are also tasked with this tough thing of protecting the homeland, right?
Yeah.
We've already seen where the violence in the world has gone to things like a lone wolf attack and stuff like that. Right? These are no more coordinated large attacks that will leave digital footprints over various sources which government agencies can pick up and all that, right? Now, where is the line? Where do you draw the line?
And who draws the line? Yeah.
And in machine learning, there is no perfect classifier. So you either err on one side of the class or you err on the other side of the class, right?
Correct.
It is the needs of the day that determine which side you err, right? So that is another way to look at who owns the data, I would say.
No, and I think, as you mentioned initially itself, that's a tough question, and it requires much more deeper reasoning. But I think again, based on this answer as well, we have a lot of insights. So that was my last question for this podcast. Thank you so much, sir, for giving your time today, and I think a lot of our viewers will be able to gain a lot of insights from this and apply in their learnings as well. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Thank you.
So thanks a lot, Chirag, for having me.
So.